Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel and this amazing Svelte series. I'm Aditya. In this video, we are going to see the concept of slots and how we can have like a card layout as we have three cards here. So we are going to see all that today. So without any further ado, let's begin. Okay, so let's say we have a card list or we have in front of us like this three cards where we have a title in each card and a paragraph. Now, one way to do this is we take three divs and then we assign a CSS class to it, and then we define some styling for it, and then typical HTML inside each div. So this thing is okay, but what if we want to reuse this card as a component? We want to reuse it, and also we want to pass sometimes custom HTML in this, or most of the time custom HTML in this. For instance, here currently we are passing h1 and p. Maybe we want to pass in this case h1 and ul tag. So let's try this one over here. So let's say if we remove this and have ul, let's say 3 points in that ul, point 1 and then point 2 and then point 3. So in this case we have like different HTML for each card. So how we can have it as a reusable component, and we can pass inside a component some HTML. So for that we have the concept of slot in Svelte. So it's similar to what we have in Vue. So first let's create a component here. So we need to create a component here, card.svelte, and now let's just copy this part, which is this div part. So I'm gonna just take from here and put it over here and just remove this HTML part inside it, because we want this card layout or that card skeleton to be reusable. The content inside it, we can switch it here and there. Now after that, let's go back over here and also copy the CSS of this card. So let's take this from here and paste it inside this component. So here we can paste that CSS, and now let's put it like this for now. Okay, and now if we go over here, let's see what happens when we import that card. So here I'm going to say card. Oh, sorry, guess it's not imported. Oh, there it is. So we have imported that card component, and now let's replace these divs with that card. So card over here, card over here, and also this div with card component. Now if we see, we are passing some HTML between this card component. Now if we check on our screen, what do we see? We just see some blank card. We don't see those like the HTML that we are passing. For instance, in this case, h1 tag and p tags, and here h1 tags and ul tags. So to have them rendered inside our component, we can use slot. So if we just have something like this, and if you go back over here, you will see all of our content can be rendered. Now, whenever we want to use the card, let's say currently we are using in card list. Let's say next time we want to use it in our app.view, because we have card list in this app.view, but let's say we want to use card over here as well. We can simply import that component and pass some HTML to it. In this case, let's say we are passing h1 title 4 and paragraph, let's say some lorem ipsum text. And if we see that again, there we go. We have our card properly rendered. Now, what if we take it a step forward, let's say we know the skeleton of our card. For instance, our card is going to have a heading, and our card is going to have a content or some body. In this case, it could be a p tag or some ul tags or some tags, but the heading will be definitely going to be there. So for that, we could have named slots. For instance, if we go to our card component over here, this slot will render all the HTML that we put inside that card component. Now, if we want slots, like let's say we want more than one slot, then in that case, we could use named slot. Now to do that, here we could say name, this is going to be title, and other slot, let's say this one, this is going to be, let's say content. Oops, this. Now if we see the difference, if we go back over here, And now here what we need to do is we just need to tell, okay, which of these is gonna go inside that slot. So for now, let's say we have wrapped this title, because if you notice on all our cards we are using h1 as titles, we can wrap that. So h1, and then here we can put that title over here like this. Now you will say, why not just pass it as a prop? Well, we can pass title as a prop, but let's say if we want to have icons in our title, or let's say we want to have with text, we want some extra thing in that title, then in that case we cannot pass it as a literal text or string. In that case we need to pass HTML, and if we want to pass HTML, then we need to use slots. Now if we go back again here, let's say this, the body content we wrap in a div again, and then let's put this inside a div. Now to render this title, what we are going to do is this h1 we are going to convert it to span, because this thing, this title slot, is already wrapped inside h1. And then on this span we are going to say slot equal to which slot we want this to be rendered in. So in this case we want this span to rendered in title slot. In the same way we can do over here. Let's say this becomes title 2, and here this becomes title 3. And now if we go back, we need to just put it like this. And if we go back, you will see we have our title 1, title 2, title 3, but we don't have our content. Now if we don't have our content, what we could do is we just need to put name on each of these slots, like here, here, and here. If we don't pass any of the slots, let's say we don't pass title slots, we don't pass names or content slots, we don't pass anything, then we can have a fallback. So here I can say this is a fallback text, or anything you want to put it as a fallback or a default text. Now let's see the difference between these three things. Now here I'm gonna put a name of slot content. So this is gonna go in the content slot. For this one I won't put anything, I will only put the title. For this one I will put the UL, but without any slot. Now let's see the difference. If we go back over here, you will see this is over there. Now this is again getting rendered because we didn't pass any default slot, so it's still gonna get rendered. In this case we pass the default slot, or we put something in the slot, so it is getting rendered there. Now if you want to make specifically this slot to have certain fallback, we can just simply remove this text from here and put this over here, and we just need to remove this slot, or we can keep it as it is like this, but then again it will show the text over here and it won't do anything, like it won't show it here. So to avoid that, we can just simply remove this slot, and then over here we can just say, okay, this belongs to slot content. There we go. Now we have everything properly rendered. In case if we don't pass any content, we have a fallback text. If we pass any content, then we have the content, and our titles and everything is rendered correctly. So does it mean that this slots or this thing we can only limit it to the card layout? Of course not. We can take it further for page layout as well. So let's create a simple page layout. So for that, I'm going to create a new folder here, layouts, just to put all our layouts in that layouts folder or layouts components. And then I'm going to create here, let's say main layout, or let's do something like this, guest layout, for someone who is not logged in yet. Now I won't be creating the complete layout, but we'll just create a skeleton of this. So here what we could do is we will have a div tag wrapping everything, and then we can have, let's say, navbar. So here we could do header, and here we could say some anchor tags. So currently they point to the same route. So here we could say link 1, and then we can have some of these again like this. So this becomes our typical plain menu. Then we have our main or our content. and then we can have a footer. So in this case, footer like this. And then here we can have the footer links. Let's say we have some link 1. Of course, this is just a skeleton. You can make it in a different way or add some extra CSS. That's totally fine. But what we want is a header, some main, and the footer. And here we have footer link. Now here we can have the slot so that whatever page content comes, it comes over here, while the rest of the things remains same. Now if we want to test this, let's go to our app.swell and let's try to render this card list inside that layout. Now here we could do something like this, guest layout, and have that card list rendered inside guest layout, because we can have components nested inside components, so that's fine. Now if we go back again and see how it looks like, there we go. We have the navbar, we have the footer, a very plain footer and navbar, and our body, like the HTML page body rendered over here. We can also pass props through slots. So let's take an example. Let's say we have this guest layout where we have a slot. Now let's say we want to pass some props that we want to pass further to our any component that gets rendered over here or any HTML that gets rendered over here. So for that, what we do is we say here, let's say the name of the prop, then here I'm going to call it, let's say message. And for now, let's give it some like a title. And let's assume that this message, or let's call it as a title actually. And this title, we want to bring in somehow inside our this card list so that we can render it over here. So here I'm going to say title. This is title from guest layout, not guest layout. Now let's try to bring this title inside our card list, which is this one. So what we are going to do, we already have a guest layout wrapping this card list component. So here we could say let, and then the prop that we have defined it over here, which is title, and then we could say title, and then we can bring that to this card list. Like let's say we have custom title as a prop, and that could have the prop value of this title that comes from the guest layout. Now if we go to our card list, of course we will need a props over here which says export let custom title, and that title we can put it over here. Let's say we put it inside this card 3 or the third card. If we go back over here, we will see that this is the title from the guest layout, and that we are rendering over here. Also, we could see now if we take another step forward, here we could see if we don't pass any content, then we can also avoid rendering this div. How can we do this? Well, it's pretty simple. Let's say we also don't want to have any fallback text. All we want is just some content to be rendered over there. So what we are going to do is let's remove this fallback text from here. So if we go back, we have nothing over here. But if we look inside this HTML for this second card, we will see that there is this div still rendered over there. Now, if we don't want that div at all, then what we could do is we could use special property that comes with Svelte, which is $slot. And this is mostly for the next session where we will see the loops and conditional loops. But for now, let's say we want to conditionally render this part. So here we could say if, and that like just need to put hashtag and then $slots dot $slots dot content, and if we have a slot which is, or if we pass some slot for this content, then only render that div. And if we go back over here, save this, if we go back to our website over here, you will see if we inspect this specific part, so here you will see that there is only h1 and there is no div. So we can also do we can have access to this slots special variable, $slots special variable, to know about that particular slot and also to conditionally render that particular content or HTML if that slot is not passed. So that's all in this video. Hope you enjoyed this video. In the next video, this one where we will see conditional loops and how we can do list rendering or for loop. So all that we will see in the next video. Till the next time, goodbye.